He's here, and I never know what to call you, Jordan Palmer, because you do so much. QB consultant, the QB Summit creator, founder, and now what do you have here? That's to your left right here?
I brought you a little gift here.
What do you got?
We just launched Thread Performance.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time with a lot of young athletes.
Yes, sir.
Tens of thousands probably by now.
Okay.
And there is, so that's actually for your boys, right? I know you got a tennis player. Right?
I got my daughter as well. Wow, sports for emerging athletes.
Yeah,
so for how old would you say this is?
It's
for?
like 14 to 22.
Okay.
You can take it. My 8-year-old takes it. But there's nothing on the market for young athletes that are chasing it and going after it. And we got 3 products. We got energy, we got strength, and then we've got just a daily, you mix this in the water. Tastes also great with almond milk. And you just basically put everything, you did your job as a mom or a dad. You put everything in their body that they need that's really currently not in their diet. So we just launched it.
That's pretty cool. And how can people get on this program?
Just threadperformance.com, and we've got subscriptions. We're off to a hot start, and
that's terrific.
And it's been really fun. It just I didn't set out to start a company. I just kept getting questions of what should I feed my kids. I didn't like my answers, so I did more research and fast forward, and we launched, and we're going to do big things.
Yeah, I mean, because obviously kids are as active as ever with youth sports, and you don't really think about diet.
Well, your son probably has like a private coach, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, right.
Well, I'm just saying, like, takes lessons, right?
Sure,
Works
he takes
at
lessons,
it, right?
yes, correct.
Sleeps, drinks water. They do all the things.
Right.
That's the thread everybody's missing is the nutrition part. Like,
no question about it.
The training's there.
And and the working out and taking care of your body, because you're just sitting there thinking, okay, mac and cheese.
The way that we develop young athletes has evolved. The way that we fuel them hasn't. So that's what we're doing.
I love it. Threadperformance.com for that. All right, fantastic. See, entrepreneur.
Love it.
Jordan Palmer is here. Back on the Rich Eisen Show radio network, sitting at the Rich Eisen Show desk, furnished by Grainger with supplies and solutions for every industry. Grainger has the right product for you. Call clickgrainger.com or just stop by. Jordan Palmer is here on the program. We just talked about Thread Performance, your new business and company for getting emerging athletes healthy and keeping them healthy and keeping them fed and nutritious. And so let's talk about the throwing part of your world.
Yeah.
What did you think of the news today out of New England that it's Jacoby Brissett over Drake Maye week 1? What's your 2 cents on that subject?
Without knowing what's happening in practice and retention of information and all of that stuff, I think it's the move. I think it's the move they planned on making. There's a lot of newness there. Right, you got a new person making personnel decisions. You've got a new head coach. You've got a room full of all 3 quarterbacks are new.
Mm-hmm. Coordinators. And what's new is you actually call them coordinators.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I think when you have that much newness and you have a rookie, when I do draft prep, I talk about newness. You're going to go from college to pro, and then everything's new. And so when you can remove some of that newness, like having somebody who has experience, like somebody who's been in tough spots, I think it's less about Drake Maye and more about Jacoby Brissett being the right guy right now. If you think about the situations Jacoby Brissett's been in, right? So he comes in, he learns New England's complicated offense early, right out the bat. He goes in Indy when they're in a total transition time. He's the starter in Cleveland in the middle of Deshaun Watson's suspension, where everybody around the building all day long is talking about the quarterback who's also suspended and not playing right now, having to play through that. I just think if I had to pick a backup to be a starter who's been through the most, chaotic situations, I think Jacoby's actually pretty high on that list.
Okay, so good move there, right? Bo Nix, does that surprise you that he's the week 1 starter in Denver?
It doesn't, and I don't know that the football world's going to realize how good Jarrett Stidham is. So that tells me a lot that he beat out Jarrett Stidham. I know Jarrett Stidham lit it up in practice, played well in preseason. Only time he started games, he's kind of gone off.
Yes.
Like he lit it up versus Kansas City and San Fran. But I just think Bo Nix was just so ready. And when you have a young guy, you're kind of asking this question of, is he ready to play at the potential of what we drafted him to be? Not 5 years down the road, but is he ready to play at that level? Or is the newness, is all the new stuff around him going to keep him from playing at that level that we saw him play in college? And I think part of it is the amount of starts that Bo's had, the most ever, right, in college.
61.
Part of it, though, is not a lot of these high picks have really dealt with adversity. A lot of these guys, Trevor Lawrence, for example, just kind of won a national championship as a true freshman and then had 2 great years to follow, right? Caleb Williams came off the bench and historic deal at Oklahoma, transfers, wins the Heisman, and then has a really good, like, not a lot of them have really been through it. Bo Nix was on some bad Auburn teams and was blamed for a lot of it. I mean, his dad played there. He grew up there. That's a lot of pressure. He's been like, he has failed before and then went to Oregon and succeeded. And so I think his context for what it takes to play franchise quarterback, which you have to go through that. I think he's got a lot of that. And then in terms of the player, if you think about what made Sean Payton in his time with Drew Brees, there's a lot of there's a lot of the same things there in Bo. And the quick decision maker, he's never been a stupid interception thrower. Mm-hmm. He's very settled. He's married. He's very mature, kind of like Drew always was. Drew had 4 kids. The biggest difference is going to be Bo Nix is like an elite athlete. He's not fast for a quarterback. He's like fast. And so I get what Sean saw in him, and I absolutely get the decision to let's roll him out there right now and go.
Jordan Palmer here in person on the Rich Eisen Show. Which quarterback situations, which teams, intrigue you, excite you? Your insight leads you to what? What are your spotlighting here entering the 2024 season?
Well, I'm really excited to see Sam Darnold, I think, finally in a good situation. Stats are stats, numbers are numbers, so you can't tweak it. But I think it's hard to argue he's been in tough spot after tough spot after tough spot.
It's no tough.
Like kind of impossible to succeed type spots. And this last year, essentially redshirting, going to San Francisco, being for the first time in his career, and I'll go back to high school because I've known him since then. This last season was the first time he was in a locker room full of winners, led by a front office who's a bunch of winners. It wasn't like that in Carolina. It wasn't like that in New York. It honestly wasn't like that at USC or at San Clemente High School, right? So this was his first exposure to what winning looks like. And I've played on a lot of teams, and there are teams where you go in and it's not a bunch of winners. And I've been on teams where we got a chance to win it. And so I think that context last year, now enter a new locker room, Kevin O'Connell, some great pieces obviously in that huddle with him. And some coaches who've won, and I'm just excited to see him in that situation, and my expectations are really high.
Then what quantify them? What do you mean? What expectations or what? Like, you think this Vikings team can make the playoffs with Sam Darnold at the controls? Because that is definitely an outlier opinion.
Yeah, that would not be the point, especially because the NFC North has just got real good real quick.
No question.
real good real quick. And if you look at their schedule, it's tough. They're non-conference. I mean, they got the Jets. They got some really good games. But what do they need to do to win the playoff or to make the playoffs, right? So they've got to come in first or second in their division. And so when I look at the matchups there in that division and what Sam can create, Kevin O'Connell and Kirk Cousins had a lot of success together.
Yes, they did.
And Kevin O'Connell in his time with Matthew Stafford had a lot of success together, and even Jared Goff. The way I look at it is he hasn't really had somebody with this mobility. Sam is more on the upper end of mobility at quarterbacks. And so how does a creative mind like Kevin O'Connell use that mobility, and how do they create more opportunities for all these pass catchers? Because it's not just Justin Jefferson. They got Hawkinson coming back. They now add the piece of Aaron Jones. And so I think this is a playoff caliber team for sure. And I think Sam is put in a position here to make a run for, I know he doesn't have personal goal aspirations, but this is a comeback player of the year type setup heading into this year.
Wow. Hey man, last year you were like, when Burrow went down, you're like, don't sleep on the Bengals. And
I sound crazy sometimes, but I'm usually not wrong. And in fact, I got smoked one time on social media.
How so?
Because somebody from Sports Illustrated was doing an article on Bo Nix, and it was after his freshman year, I think, and
in Auburn.
At Auburn,
okay.
And I was bullish on Bo Nix and the potential. And so somebody says, "Well, what's the ceiling?" And I was misquoted a little bit, but they said, "What's the ceiling?" And I go, "This is like a top 10 pick ceiling," which sounded bananas at the time. And so they put that on social media.
Close though.
I missed it by 2. My bad. And they quoted me as saying number 1 pick, and then just the comment section was hysterical. And it's like I can't go back far enough to find that post, but I sound crazy at times, but I'm usually not wrong.
Well, I'll give you the same advice I give T.J. Jefferson, who's right behind you. Don't read the comment section.
Yeah.
Life is so much better when you don't read the comments.
I only
It's
read
hard
it when
not
it's
to,
controversial because it's just funny to me.
So then the AFC team, you gave me an NFC team in the quarterback situation. You're like, okay, this can be better than people think. You got one in the AFC in that regard?
I mean, I'm excited to watch Joe Burrow play. If you think about his career so far, his rookie year was COVID, and so they had no offseason. He essentially met his team on Zoom, right? And then rushed together. Training camp was chaos for everybody, right? The season was weird. He's had an emergency appendectomy and missed all of training camp 2 years ago. He popped his calf last year in training camp, basically just kind of limped into week 1. And this year he had the wrist, but through training camp, this is essentially the healthiest he's ever been heading into week 1. The guy's played at an elite level every season that he's played. His season has either ended in the Super Bowl or hurt. Those are the two ways that he's ended his seasons. That's
right.
True.
Right. Unfortunately, hurt more than Super Bowl.
Yes.
But at least there's a Super Bowl.
I am excited to see what this looks like with two receivers. I don't know what's going to happen with Jamar Chase here, but two receivers who are essentially in a contract year.
Yes.
So you're getting max effort, which was one of the reasons why I believe that Jake Browning was going to succeed.
Yes.
You aren't going to have anybody give up. So I am very excited to see what Joe Burrow does with this sort of wind in his sails heading into the season.
Okay. Jordan Palmer here on the Rich Eisen Show. I'm going to, if you don't mind, go a little sports talk radio and throw a couple of headlines from the last week or two to get your thoughts on it. The first one is what Tua said about Brian Flores and what Mike McDaniel has done to throw an arm around him and the difference that that's made. You have an opinion on that and how you talk to a quarterback, you coach a quarterback? Is there an opinion you have on that subject matter, Jordan Palmer?
I was shocked that Tua was that candid. You know what I mean?
Well, he's been paid now, right?
No, for sure.
And I think that is a sign of how he feels about, that he's reached that milestone.
Yeah. I was surprised. I met Tua when he was like a sophomore in high school. I was just surprised that he was that candid. I don't fault him for anything that he said. I was just more surprised that he said it. Look, I think any quarterback, college or pro, will tell you, I like hard coaching, right? And some guys actually do. They prefer to just be told the truth, cut and dry. I just don't think anybody honestly likes negative coaching. I don't know anything that happened there outside of what Tua said.
Correct.
I just know Tua not to be a liar and not to be somebody who exaggerates situations or makes things about himself. I just never seen him do it once. He's just like selfless as they come. Part of that is Polynesian culture. It's not about him. It is about us in the group. So I was surprised that he said it, but I believe that whatever he said is exactly how it went down or exactly how he experienced it. But I think you can be hard on players on quarterbacks. But when you get onto the negative side, it's just the polar opposite of what I believe. And I spend a lot of time developing quarterbacks.
Yeah. So, I mean, you want to offer any pushback of that quarterbacks are kind of a wallflower and they need the love here? Or?
I don't think they need it. I think they need to, I try and as a coach, I can only speak from what I know. I try and move people towards something. So even if you're overstriding, which is a bad thing, you're overstriding. I wouldn't tell you to not overstride. I would tell you what to do to prevent the overstride. Right? It's always moving towards something. You want to stop doing this, start doing this. It will help you to stop doing that. So I like coaches. I have a lot of college and NFL clients. I like the coaches that are always moving them towards something, not reprimanding them or saying, here's the play, don't throw a pick on it. Right? I don't even want to create a vision for somebody doing something wrong. I want to move them towards something.
Do you know? I mean, how can you tell that somebody needs to have an arm thrown around them a little bit more than somebody else? Right? I mean,
I think part of it maybe McDaniels picked up on it when he got there, but I think the other part of it is that's McDaniels' style. I just think it was a great marriage. Whoever made the decision to hire Mike McDaniels, which was it's a first-time head coach, so there's a risk.
Right.
Whoever the group was that kind of stood on the table and said, let's go with this guy. Man, they played Cupid because that has been a great, match that's been made, and they've gotten the most out of Tua. And he's turned out to be not just a great quarterback developer. He seems to be a great head coach, and everybody loves him.
And they're designing, right, in a way where it's perfect for him. Let's get speed off the charts everywhere. Let him process, know where he's got to go with it, and get rid of it accurately. Like that seems to be the way to go, and this team just needs to keep winning and getting the home field advantage, because this is the style of play that, you know, would be better in 70-degree weather rather than sub-zero, you know?
I almost kind of don't care what Miami does the first 2 months, because the whole conversation is going to be, can you do it in cold weather? That's been the conversation too. So it's kind of like they're going to be fun to watch. But can they get over the hump with Buffalo, and can they do it in the cold, I think is going to define the 2025 season for the Dolphins.
Yeah, and by the way, week 2, first Thursday night game of the year on Prime Video is Dolphins Bills. So we're going to get right to it.
In Buffalo?
It is not. It's in Miami to start.
So then they're going to play Buffalo at Buffalo later.
Let me make sure I understand when that is. They will be in Buffalo right in week 9. So you never know.
Be cooling down.
Yeah, it could get a little bit, but they're at the Jets and at Cleveland to finish the season. So those are going to be
And if you look at who's good in the AFC, this is going to come down to an away, potentially playoff game.
Sure.
And it's going to be cold in Cincy, Baltimore, Kansas City, Buffalo, New York.
Jordan Palmer here on the Rich Eisen Show. And the other headline, our colleagues at the Worldwide Leader in Sports, not to go negative here, but they had a bunch of quarterbacks anonymously vote on the most overrated quarterback in the NFL, and Josh Allen's name got spat out to be number 1. What'd you think of that?
I saw it. I can't believe that.
I was kind of stunned
too. I can't believe that. I just feel like so often the media or the fans' perspective is just like very different than what the players really think. You know what I mean? Like you've seen that a ton, right? Where like, I can't believe that everybody says this. That's not even true. That one, I was like, really? The number 1 trash talker he was voted to. I believe that. But because he's hysterical. I mean, and just as witty and quick as anybody.
What could possibly be overrated about him?
What is overrated about him? Statistically, I mean, he does physical talent. Like it's not like he's just surrounded by everybody. You know,
it could be the fact that he does too much and he's not criticized for that in a way that maybe others are. But in terms of just his play, his level of play, he's overrated.
Basically, I don't have a good answer for you, because like I saw that and I was like, me and my partner Mike, we work with. I'm like,
what the hell, right?
That's a weird. Is that accurate? Because if I send a text message out to like 25 quarterbacks right now, like. I just don't think that. I don't think they'd have him at 1, or on the list. So there's some other names too, and it's just like Josh is number 1. That's crazy to me.
So yeah, just throw that one out is what you're saying.
For me, I was just surprised by it. I don't have any nuggets on it. I couldn't believe it.
Love it. A few minutes I have left with you here in studio, Jordan Palmer on the Rich Eisen Show. College football. We're just getting started. Who's on your radar screen or that you're working with that we should pay attention to, that you're interested in? I'll just give you the floor.
The big
spotlight something for me.
My business has evolved to. Guys are just on annual retainers, and it's a service business for the year round. So I've got over a dozen college clients, and so. But of whether I'm working with him or not, I'm really, really interested to watch Bama this year. Jalen Milroe, I've spent a lot of time with him. But this staff, what they did with Michael Penix Jr.
Yes.
They're also, by the way, replacing Nick Saban, the greatest coach in college football.
I've heard of him. Yeah.
Like that. There's that dynamic. There's, because it's college football, there's some new players. They lost some guys. They got some guys. And it's Bama. But I think watching Michael Penix Jr. like I did the last really 3 or 4 years, because I watched him in Indiana, and watch his game just level up each year, and then seeing a lot of the similarities in Jalen's game. The difference would be, even though I think Michael Penix Jr. ran like a 4.46 or something super fast, from my understanding, like Jalen might be like the fastest guy on the Bama team. Like it's a different level of speed. And so to be able to be in that system with this staff, and just the resources they have at Bama, they're used to winning. Everybody there's a winner. Like the Sam Darnold comment, like
right.
The assistant equipment managers used to winning at Bama. I'm very excited to see Jalen's growth over a really good last year, first year starting to this year.
The Texas quarterback situation is fascinating to me. Obviously, we had Sark on the other day, and he loves Quinn Ewers, and at some point he said they'll put Arch in there. Yeah, and that's just an interesting quarterback room to keep an eye on there. I'd imagine
Quinn Ewers is one of my favorite stories, because he was really the first like famous NIL kid. Like, he was the first person to kind of get thrown out there. He skipped his senior year. He went to Ohio State. He got, paid or whatever the story was to go there. And then he was really, I think, in a tough spot not that long ago. And now, and he's got a mullet and all that stuff. He just seems like he's just like grown up a lot these last 2 years. He had a really good year last year. Very smart for him to go back again.
Do you think so?
I think so, yeah. You're in a great situation, great team, great quarterback developer, and Sark and the other the coaches they have around him there. Thought it was a smart move, and they got a chance to go all the way. You know what I mean? They did last year too. But I've loved watching the growth of Quinn Ewers, and I'm like everybody. I'm just fascinated to see what Arch ends up. Just to continue to follow his jersey. I've spent time with him on the field, and I know his family well. I'm fired up to see him play, under the lights.
Well, I mean, there is a path to go from Ohio State doesn't have room for you, and you go to the SEC. There's a great path
there is.
To the NFL. There is. By the way, I'll take any chance I can to Broadside, Columbus, Ohio. Any chance I can. So I appreciate that opportunity. Yeah. Speaking of my alma mater, what do you think the quarterback situation?
Have you come down from your high yet? Like,
no, I will never.
How long do you celebrate a national title as a fan?
I'm doing it now inside. You can't tell. I will do it forevermore.
Yeah.
Greatest year of my life, brother.
Well, there's a lot of newness there.
There is. I know that.
From head coach to quarterback to all the. I'm sure they had a bunch of guys go to the league.
They did.
I think that's an interesting. Quarterback situation, because you're not replacing, first round pick with another person that everyone's been waiting for him to be the next first round pick, right? That's not how it's happening. It's, Alex Orji, who's got a chance to play, and played well and played meaningful snaps in games. They kind of used him last year, kind of like, if you remember Tim Tebow and Chris Leak. They kind of got the true freshman kid in there while the starter Chris Leak went to the national title.
Yes.
And then they've got a guy that I don't think many people really know about. I'm curious. Do you know Davis Warren? Do you know his story?
Not so much. I'm keen to hear about it.
So Davis Warren, it's Michigan. They're going to kill some people. So either way, he's going to probably end up playing. But this is an interesting story to follow, because I met him when through a dear friend of mine who passed away a few years ago, was a performance psychologist, Trevor Moad, connected me with this. I don't know if you know Trevor.
I do. I've heard of him. Yes, sir.
Connected me with Davis because he was going into his senior year and got leukemia, and was told he's never going to play again, and all the stuff the doctors tell you. And he was as locked in. I do a lot with the Jesse Reese Foundation. I've done a lot of hospital visits, a lot with pediatric cancer. And this dude was as probably locked in on taking that head on as I've ever been around. He goes to a grad school. I don't ever tell kids where to go, but if I need to put somebody on a radar, I do. I reached out to Harbaugh and I said, I got an unbelievable walk-on kid you got to look at. And he ended up going and walking on. He earned a scholarship a year or two ago, and sounds like he's in the mix and I'm going to probably get a chance to play at some point this year. And, if that guy ends up being the guy, that's going to be, I don't know. How many stories have you heard like that?
Not many. And so you called Jim and you're like, hey, Jim, I got a kid
text,
for you.
But yeah.
Okay. You texted him like, I got a kid for you to take a look at.
Yeah, from a walk-on perspective. And he was coming out of he's from LA, and then he's going to prep school somewhere in the East Coast. I don't even remember.
Sure.
But he can rip it, and he's locked in. And then I just think quarterbacks dealing with adversity is a huge piece, right? Overcoming all these things. And that's fine, right? Throwing a pick, losing the game, getting booed, that's adversity. Getting leukemia at 17 and losing your hair and losing your senior year of football, like, that's adversity. So when you have that as context for tough times, I just don't think being down 14 in the fourth quarter is going to register as adversity. And I think that he's those types of kids. And again, I've done a lot of hospital visits, a lot of these kids, those types of people are set up to really take on adversity, and they get real dangerous.
Jordan Palmer, you are the man. Thanks for coming in here. I really appreciate that.
Awesome.
And so again, thread performance.
Yeah.
Okay. For kids or for 14 to 22 is what you say?
It's just nobody's designed anything for athletes going through puberty, and we've just built this product. It's super clean for everything that athletes need. We've got energy, strength, and then a daily meal.
Terrific.
Awesome.
Keep looking for my calls, man. You make me smarter. You make everybody smarter, and you give us things to. You drop breadcrumbs that usually. I shouldn't say dread. You drop seeds that usually grow and are proven correct. Thanks for the time. You're the man. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.